One of the biggest pieces of this upcoming NASCAR free agency season fell into place this past weekend. Let's discuss it. How's it going, everyone? My name is Eric and welcome to Out of the Groove. Did everyone get a good night's sleep? I know I certainly did, knowing that NASCAR is officially back. If you missed my video I did yesterday at the end of the Darlington return race, you can check it out. It's on my channel right now. Before I get too far into this episode, I want to mention the Icebox Pickup Throwdown iRacing Truck Series. It's an iRacing series featuring many of your favorite truck and Xfinity Series drivers that I've been a part of broadcasting. The final race of the series is this Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this channel. They'll be racing at the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, and I will once again be a part of the broadcast team, so tune in. Hope to see you all there. Also, new t-shirt designs are available. You can check them out right down there by the description of this video, whether you're on mobile or desktop, or you can go to teespring.com/stores/estep. You can check out all the designs. There are more coming soon, hopefully, but thank you guys for checking that out and getting ready, getting souped up right here for the restart of the NASCAR season. All right, but we've got some other stuff to discuss today. I kind of have to squeeze these videos in now over the next couple weeks because tomorrow there's another NASCAR race. It's an Xfinity race tomorrow. There's a Cup race on Wednesday, so I don't have a lot of time to squeeze some of these extra Out of the Groove episodes in, but I'm going to do my best. Now, before we talk about free agency and silly season, let's talk about TV ratings from this weekend's race at Darlington. It's been estimated that 6.32 million viewers tuned into Fox to watch NASCAR's The Real Heroes 400 Sunday from Darlington Raceway. And as you can see from Fox Sports PR, it was the most watched non-Daytona 500 NASCAR race since March 5th, 2017. No matter how you slice it, that's pretty darn significant. Some people are trying to downplay it, saying, oh, I expected more. There's no other sports on TV. Why was NASCAR not raking in 20 million viewers? Like, guys, this isn't 1979 anymore where there's only 3 channels on the knob. You still got Netflix, YouTube, hundreds of other channels that are still airing things, maybe not live sports, but still airing things to compete with. I actually said in my live stream before the race went live yesterday, I expected maybe a 20 to 30% increase in viewers from races that were held last May, because I think that's what you need to compare this to. This race took place in the middle of May on the main Fox, so let's compare it to a 2019 race that took place in May that was also held on Fox. This same weekend a year ago was Kansas, but that race was only shown on FS1, so I'm not going to count that. I'm going to go and compare this year's Darlington race to last year's Talladega race, which was held on May 1st, was also broadcast on the main Fox network. And 1 year ago, it was estimated that Fox drew in 4.52 million viewers to that Talladega race. Talladega Superspeedway, probably the most iconic racetrack NASCAR goes to, and it drew in 4.5 million viewers. This year's Darlington race, this last weekend's Darlington race, drew in 6.3 million. If we wanted to compare that, that is approximately a 40% year-to-year increase, which is huge. It's more than I predicted yesterday. Yesterday, I was, playing it fairly conservatively. I wanted to leave myself room to be pleasantly surprised, and I was. I thought we'd see a 20 to 30% increase year-to-year comparing May to May. We saw 40%. So I think that is extremely significant. It wasn't going to draw in Daytona 500 TV numbers. Yesterday's Darlington race was only advertised for like a week, and it wasn't advertised widespread across all different platforms the way the Daytona 500 is every single year. So no, I did not expect, and I don't think anyone should have expected, this Darlington race to draw in more viewers than the Daytona 500, especially this year's Daytona 500, which on Sunday before the rain was peaking out around 11 million views. So I see some people trying to downplay this, which fair enough, go ahead. Some people might have been disappointed. Some people might have had really lofty expectations. That's fine. I appreciate the optimism, but 6.3 million viewers, first race back, I consider that a success. And again, if I compare this race to another race that took place in the same month a year ago on the same TV network at a more iconic racetrack, this race blew it out of the water. 40% more viewers for this race than for Talladega last spring in the same month on the same TV network. That's what I'm comparing to because I think that's what tells the most full story. Every year, NASCAR TV ratings look basically like this. They start really high with the Daytona 500, and then they stay pretty high the first couple races, and then it slowly flattens out and gets kind of low, and then you have some peaks. Talladega in May is usually a small peak, and then it kind of dwindles and it gets a little bit lower. The summer months are when it's brutal. There's nothing happening in the summer. Daytona might get a boost. The Brickyard 400 might get a boost, but it's pretty brutal in the summer, and then as the playoffs ratchet up at the end of the year, it starts to peak a little bit, but it never gets back to where it started the year at the Daytona 500. The championship race is always higher than most of the other races, but it's never close to the Daytona 500. But that's what I'm saying. This year, the Daytona 500 was here, decrease a little bit, then of course we had the long hiatus, but now this spike here at Darlington is high. It is higher than what the championship race usually draws in. So that is significant. I don't want to see people downplaying that, acting like this was a failure. No. NASCAR had a Herculean task. Fox, NASCAR Darlington Raceway had a Herculean task to try and overcome so many barriers, so many obstacles, so many things that had to go right this weekend, and this came out about as well as you can expect. So I don't want to see people downplaying that, like, oh, NASCAR still not getting the numbers we expect. Come on, you guys, what kind of expectations do y'all have? NASCAR is not a mainstream sport anymore, y'all. I mean, it's a mainstream name. Everyone has heard of NASCAR. You can ask probably anybody in this country. They've heard of NASCAR, but it's not a mainstream popular thing that people sit down and watch and talk about over dinner. No, it just doesn't happen, y'all. Looking ahead to Wednesday, looking ahead to next Sunday, what the ratings look like. They're definitely going to be lower than Darlington was, especially Wednesday. Everyone, remember, Wednesday, the race in 2 days, is going to have far fewer viewers than yesterday's race did because it's on FS1. It's on cable only, not on broadcast. So keep that in mind. Take those numbers with a grain of salt when they come out. Pretty pleased with what I saw from the TV ratings that were announced earlier today. But let me know what you thought down in the comments. I want to catch up on some big news that was revealed just before this past weekend's event at Darlington Raceway. One of the first big dominoes of this coming silly season fell into place this past weekend with Alex Bowman announcing an extension with Hendrick Motorsports. They announced a 1-year extension for Alex Bowman, which will keep him in the 88 car through the end of the 2021 season. Now, sponsorship is still very much a question. They did not announce any additional sponsorship alongside his extension. There's questions about whether Ally, who's with Jimmy Johnson this year and is signed on with Hendrick for the next, I think, 3 years. There's questions whether or not Ally might jump over and help sponsor the 88. He obviously has Exalta there for a few races. He has Lumar, Cincinnati Incorporated, and then this year he's got all those Chevy sponsors on the car as well. Not sure what sponsorship is going to look like for 2021, but this goes back to what I talked about last week in my silly season predictions video. Rick Hendrick would be a fool to let Alex Bowman walk away. You're Hendrick freaking Motorsports. The brand practically sells itself. I'm sure they'll be able to scrounge together a decent amount of sponsorship to cover most of those races for the 88 next year. Alex Bowman is proving right now that he is a great young talent. I'm a little surprised it's only a 1-year extension, and I do think the reason it's a 1-year extension is because there are questions around sponsorship. It's not like they brought in another sponsor that said, hey, yeah, we'll invest 3 years of effort into Alex Bowman now. They're taking it on a year-by-year basis, which I think is going to become more and more commonplace in and around the NASCAR Cup Series as we go forward, as the days of, one sponsor, like Lowe's, sponsoring every race of the season for one driver, those days are almost behind us. I'm thinking like FedEx sponsors pretty much every race for Denny Hamlin. Ally, I guess, is sponsoring every race for Jimmy Johnson, but obviously he's retiring at the end of this year. Beyond those two, I mean, M&M sponsors a lot of Kyle Busch races, but not all of them. I'm just saying. Nowadays, drivers have a few major sponsors instead of just one primary that they run 35 times a year. And because teams aren't really able to get that kind of long-term commitment from one significant sponsor, I think that's going to lead to a lot of short-term deals. It's hard to commit to a guy for 4 years when you're not sure whether his sponsor is going to stick around for 4 years. And sponsors, I think, are taking things on a year-to-year basis, especially right now with the way the economy is, with the way this pandemic is, and the uncertainty of the future. Yeah, sponsors, I'm sure, are not willing to take long-term risk at this point, especially not in a sport like NASCAR, which has kind of, been wavering as far as ratings and as far as attendance and stuff. It's wavering in terms of popularity. I don't see any big 4 or 5 year contracts coming for any driver down the line. I mean, even Kyle Busch, I think last year signed like a 3-year extension. Arguably the best driver in the sport today got 3 years. And he's had some reliable sponsorship throughout his career. 3 years. You think about like baseball where people sign 10-year contracts, things like that. Crazy. That's never going to happen in NASCAR because there's too many other factors at play besides just the player and the team. But this is huge for not just Hendrick Motorsports, because I think they're locking up a really talented young driver for at least 1 more year. But this is also huge, of course, for Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman had to scrap and claw for a while before he was able to get a solid Cup Series opportunity. Remember, he was with BK Racing for a time. And now that he's here, now that the Chevys, for the first time now in Bowman's Hendrick career, look really good. I mean, the Hendrick Motorsports cars look like maybe the class of the field week in, week out. This is huge for Bowman going forward. He's going to be a legit championship contender this year and likely next year, and for as many years as he probably stays with Hendrick at this point. The new Camaro that they just slightly adjusted the nose primarily this year is making a difference. What we talked about in yesterday's video about Darlington. The 4 Hendrick cars might have been the 4 best cars in the race, and had Jimmy not wrecked himself and had William Byron not had a loose wheel or whatever happened to him, probably would have seen a Hendrick car in victory lane. Bowman finished 2nd, Chase finished 4th, so the Chevys are back. They are fast. Alex Bowman is set up nicely now for the next 18 or so months. Hendrick Motorsports is going to be a very young team next year. Yes, they're improving. Yes, the cars are good, but they have William Byron, who's 22 years old, Chase Elliott, who is 24 years old, and now Alex Bowman, 27 years old. are locked up for next year, and the 48 car is still an unknown. It sounds like they want to put a veteran driver. I believe they're going to put a veteran driver in the 48 car next year, but they might not. You never know. What if they go with a rookie? What if they pick Noah Gragson? What if they go with someone unpredictable like that? That could be a extremely young and fairly inexperienced team. Very talented team. Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, William Byron, extremely talented, but young, but inexperienced. And I'll be curious to see how, if that affects Hendrick's performance next year. I think Hendrick wants to go with a veteran driver. That's what they have now. They have Jimmy Johnson, the veteran experienced driver with all the young guys, and it's working for him at the moment. I think that's what they're going to want to do in 2021 as well. But a one-year deal for Alex Bowman, so not a ton of job security long-term, but nice for nice for him to at least have his name taken off the market for the time. Still a lot of big name free agents at play. I'm thinking about Brad Keselowski, Eric Jones, Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, Bubba Wallace, Corey LaJoie, Matt DiBenedetto, and several others probably are looking for a new contract extension or new contracts in general. So the silly season is still just getting started. But I'm 1 for 1 on my predictions. I picked Bowman to stay in the 88 car. I figured Hendrick would not let him get away, so I'll take that one. We're rolling batting 1,000 at the moment. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this video, NASCAR is scheduled to host another race in like 24 hours. Tomorrow at Darlington, tomorrow evening, Darlington, the Xfinity Series makes its return, and then the next day, Wednesday night, the Cup Series races once again at Darlington for a shorter race than what we had Sunday. But weather in the Darlington, South Carolina area looks very iffy over the next 2 or 3 days. There's still a very good chance NASCAR is able to run both of those races more or less as scheduled tomorrow. But if they're not able to, if they cannot, with the schedule being so condensed over the next few weeks, a lot of fans were raising questions as to what do they do if a race gets rained out? How do they reschedule them? Steve O'Donnell, per some tweets, per reports, shed some light on their thinking on that yesterday. O'Donnell said, "We're going to try our best to get both of those races in. We would have an extra day or even 2 on the back end of Darlington to try to get these in. A lot of that will depend on television windows to make sure things are available. We've got some built-in time." And of course, what they're talking about is that after Wednesday night's scheduled race at Darlington, NASCAR doesn't have any races planned until Sunday, and that is the Cup Series again. So in theory, they could race Thursday or they could race Friday. They could do a Friday doubleheader with Xfinity in the early afternoon, Cup Series in the evening. That is something they could very easily do, and this is part of why NASCAR made it clear at the very beginning that they wanted to race in tracks close to Charlotte, North Carolina. Darlington, South Carolina is like 2 hours away from where most of the race teams are located. Yesterday, I'm pretty sure all of the Cup Series drivers drove up to the racetrack the morning of the race. They slept in their own beds, woke up, drove down to South Carolina across state lines, and got set for the race in the early afternoon. So it's not like the teams are going to have to haul from Phoenix all the way back to North Carolina in the course of like 2 days. It's not like that's going to put any major strain on the race teams having to push Darlington to Thursday or Friday, but it is interesting to hear Steve O'Donnell mention that those are their options. Those are their contingency plans. Weather doesn't look great for Thursday, but Friday, that's what I'm saying, Friday could end up being a busy day. And I'm sure this is what the plan might look like going forward. Of course, going forward, the trucks get involved, ARCA gets involved later in June. So of course, at that point, things are going to get a little bit dicier on the scheduling front, but with these midweek races, but most importantly, with all of these races being held close to home, it makes some of those logistics a bit easier to manage. It would suck if the races this week both get postponed, both get rained out. That would really suck. NASCAR's trying to build some positive momentum, trying to give people something exciting to watch. It would really stink if this quick into it they already had something go wrong, already had weather getting in the way. But it is what it is. You can't control it, of course. But it's interesting to hear NASCAR's contingency plan that wouldn't include blowing up the whole schedule. It's not like they're going to have to squeeze in Darlington in July. No, they would just race this race a day or 2 later. NASCAR's got a built-in buffer zone, you could say. But I wanted to talk about that briefly. As of now, the Cup Series is still planned for Wednesday night. The Xfinity Series is tomorrow night. For the Cup Series side of things, Ryan Preece and Ty Dillon are going to be on the front row because per the rule book, the top 20 inverted. The top 20 finishers from yesterday inverted. So the 20th place finisher, which I believe was Ryan Preece, is on the pole for Wednesday night's race. That's going to be interesting. Race winner Harvick is going to start 20th. So gonna be something. I'm excited for it. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they're able to get these 2 races done on the days that they are initially scheduled. There is always the possibility of moving the race time up forward, especially with no fans in attendance. That could very easily be done. It always comes down to what the TV partners are available for, what Fox and FS1 are able to show. That, of course, is extremely important as well, because that's the whole reason they're running these races, is to bring in that television money to keep these teams from going out of business. So there's still some variables at play, but that is what NASCAR's contingency plan for rain sounds like, at least least for this week. It might change slightly track to track, race to race as the schedule changes a little bit, but there you have it. Have no fear, folks. I think we will see more NASCAR this week before Sunday. I just don't know what day it'll be, depending on how the weather shapes up. Thank you all for watching this video. Subscribe if you are new. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. And of course, a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. Could not do this show without all of your support. We continue to add new names over there, which is absolutely insane, absolutely incredible. So thank you all for continuing to support me, support the show. None of this would be possible without all of your support. So for that, I greatly appreciate it. Might have another video up tomorrow, but I don't know. With the way the Xfinity schedule and Cup schedule, I don't know how these next couple weeks are going to go as far as uploads are concerned. I'd like to get on some sort of consistent schedule, but with NASCAR races happening almost every day of the week, it's kind of difficult to do that. But I will have a review episode up after the Cup Series race at Darlington, the midweek race, whenever it hopefully gets held. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for a whole lot more. If any big news breaks, I will be here to talk about it and get to hear you guys' opinions in the comments below. So leave a comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. I'll see you again very soon. Have a great start to your week, everyone.